Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com. From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our Foreground Hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com.
I'm Warren, a huge fan of tabletop games. But few games out there have a story so deep as Warhammer 40k. I'm setting out to explore this vast universe and the game with my trusty guide, AJ. So join us on Warhammer 40k Charted. Hi guys, and welcome back to 40k Charted. AJ, good to see you again.
It's good to be back.
So AJ, we're going to do another unit spotlight. Who are we looking at today?
Today we're looking at the Swooping Hawks. These are an aspect of the Eldar.
Yeah.
So the Eldar have kind of these various aspects that you can join, kind of almost like martial arts in a way. Kind of, you know, the way you've got different types of martial arts. You've got different types of kind of paths that you can choose as a warrior in the Eldar. So you've got sort of quite a wide variety of these. You've kind of got the Dark Reapers, they're kind of long range specialists. Then you've got the Fire Dragons, and they're close range, but they're good against vehicles and buildings, and they've got melted weapons essentially. And then you've got the kind of the Striking Scorpions, who are kind of the.
So these are the aspects. Then are like a specialization. It's like a warrior's path type thing.
Definitely warrior's path. So each kind of aspect has almost like its kind of grand sensei on it in a way. You know, it's got the it's kind of master in charge of each, and each one kind of follows his doctrine, his battle doctrine. Okay.
Well, kick off. Can we bring up a picture of the Swooping Hawks so we see who we're talking about?
So these are the Swooping Hawks here. These kind of blue and white guys.
Lovely looking models, aren't
beautiful. They? You can't fault the Eldar range. It's a gorgeous range. And these guys, I just think they look amazing. They very much look like the role that they sort of follow. The wings, they're kind of, they descend from on high. They kind of they're not really combat-y, but they use like a wide variety of grenades. So they kind of fly over the battlefield, dropping bombs and things like that there. So they're an interesting unit. They kind of shoot reasonably long-range weapons, or sort of mid-range weapons, I suppose. As they kind of fly along and drop these grenade packs and generally sort of sow devastation below them. So,
what can you tell me about them as an aspect? Then, you know, what is the fluff? Bear in mind, I'm gonna deviate here. I just know it. I just know it.
So these guys are they're essentially the warrior path that kind of has them on high above the battlefield, and their aspect lord, their Phoenix Lord. Each aspect has its own kind of Phoenix Lord, and he's kind of a reincarnation of the original Phoenix Lord. So he's kind of lived throughout history from essentially the time of the fall. That cataclysmic event we've talked about before with the Eldar creating Slanesh. So their Phoenix Lord is a guy called Baharroth, and Baharroth is kind of this shining example of battlefield prowess. He flies over the battlefield. He's very glorious. When he arrives on the battlefield, it's almost a symbol of the battle's already been won. You know, bring up a picture here of Baharroth. He's again a great looking miniature. He's just class. He carries the Hawk's Talon weapon, and
which one's that? Is that the gun or
that's
the sword?
That's the gun. And it is an upgrade that you can take on your Exarch as well. And he also carries one of the swords of Vol. Vol is one of the Eldar gods, and he was kind of the master of the forge essentially. Very, very skilled blacksmith, or you know, kind of swordsmith, and weaponsmith.
Well, I've got to ask, right? These aspects, what do you call a normal Eldar warrior? Is he just an Eldar warrior? Or,
that's an Eldar guardian.
An Eldar guardian.
But
the guardians, do they work to join an aspect? Are they recruited from the guardians, or
it kind of works a bit differently. The guardians are almost like the Eldar planetary defense force in a way. They are essentially conscripts. Very, very good conscripts. And that's probably an oversimplification. But essentially, your guardians are your standard Eldar. Because there's so few Eldar these days, you know, their race has been in decline for a long time. The guardians are made up of kind of potters and poets and you know, all the kind of civilian kind of jobs, civilian backgrounds that are in Eldar society, and they kind of join the guardians when the call is put out. Even so, they're quite skilled. Certainly, they're more skilled than the standard sort of human would be if he went from being a potter to a guardsman, you know, which happens, I'm sure, quite frequently. But basically, there are some in Eldar society that, just like our society, that decide to join the path of the warrior and become soldiers, and become that's what they see as their kind of destiny. So they would choose one of these aspects, and they would sort of follow into one of these aspects and
so
train.
Just to pull you back a bit, just so as I can understand it, the Eldar reside on these things called Craftworlds. Yeah. What is a Craftworld?
A Craftworld is essentially a world. It's almost. Is
it a spaceship? Is it a planet? Is it a?
It's sort of a mix of the two.
Yeah.
It's like a very, very big spaceship. They are designed in such a way that they kind of have organic life growing on them, and they have their own atmospheres and things like that. They're very much like we would sort of like the worlds in which we would live. You know, although again they range in style and kind of shape and form, but they are very, you know, they're there to sustain life and also move around a little bit. They can travel around the galaxy.
And when they say craft worlds, they don't mean that one particular type of craft, like the potters are on one world and, and the knitters are in another world.
No. And they're not made of cheese either.
All right, okay, right. So, and on this craft world, then you find all sorts of aspects of the. Well, no, don't want to use the word aspects. You find all sorts of the different types of Eldar life and Eldar trades and stuff like that there. So every craft world, I don't want to say it looks like every other craft world, but every craft world has potentially a bit of everything on it. So it would have the different aspect training schools or whatever they are and all on it.
Yeah. It's just like kind of in a kind of more advanced way than the Imperium has their planets, and kind of has, you know, kind of certain, you know, kind of civilization exists and different creatures exist. That would be just the same as a craft world. They've created them in such a way to create a place for them to live. So it's not as functional as a spaceship. It's somewhere that you can feel comfortable living.
Yes.
As well, you know, because that, you know.
So it's not utilitarian. These might be quite architecturally kind of
very beautiful. Very beautiful. As with much of the Eldar, they're kind of all very kind of everything they create is very beautiful and
okay,
elegant.
So the Swooping Hawks then, founded by Baharroth. Was he the first of this particular style, like the Kung Fu master, the guy that developed this style of combat?
So he was trained by a sermon, and a sermon was kind of, for want of a better word, the kind of overseer and sort of first of all the aspect warriors and all the Phoenix Lords. So he was kind of the one that trained a lot of the ones underneath him, a lot of these Phoenix Lords that came after. And it is said that Baharroth was his finest student. He was actually the brother of Morgan Ra, and Morgan Ra is the Dark Reapers Phoenix Lord. So he specializes in kind of long range combat. He wears things like skull masks and things like that there, and scythes and things like that there. So they're brothers, but they're kind of all, they're described as being as like the sun and the moon. So you've got Baharroth, who is very bright and glorified and sort of a shining star among the Eldar, and then you have Morgan Ra, who's very dark and dour and kind of carries a scythe, gun, and wears a skull mask and is very morbid almost. Yeah. So they're kind of, they complement each other very well because of their contrasting sort of features. So Baharroth basically created his aspect in his own image, as all the Phoenix Lords have done. And he descends from on high during the battle and sort of sows this sort of devastation below him. Yeah. I'll pull up his picture there again. So he swoops in. As we kind of get towards the end of the 41st millennium, the Phoenix Lords are starting to be seen more often. Yeah. And this is a little bit worrying for the Eldar. Even though they're great leaders and it's great to have them on the battlefield, it's a bit worrying because it's foretold that there's going to be this battle called the Ranadandra.
The Ranadandra?
The Ranadandra.
Okay.
And this battle is basically the apocalyptic battle between the material world and chaos. So it's going to be a battle that basically ends the universe as we know it, ends the galaxy as we know it. And this is why the Eldar fear this, because they know it's going to be the end of their civilization. Yeah. And this is a battle where all of the Phoenix Lords are going to take part, so they're all going to reunite
so the fact that they're being spotted more often is alluding to the fact that Ranadandra may be not far away. Yeah. Right. How do these guys kind of conduct themselves in battle then, AJ? What's a typical battle with these guys look like?
So these guys would, as we said, kind of be above the battlefield, would kind of swoop over the battlefield on their wings. These wings kind of contain anti-grav technology within each kind of feather. So they're kind of designed to kind of swoop down from on high. There is an interesting little tidbit from the Codex Titanicus book, way years ago as an expansion for Adeptus Titanicus, that these guys apparently were born into battle upon these craft called the Shooting Stars, and they were kind of cloaked, hidden spaceships that basically ferried the aspect warriors, the Swooping Hawks, from the sort of Craftworlds and brought them to wherever they were needed on the battlefield. And then when they were flying inside the atmosphere, they would disperse from this sort of shooting star. The aspect warriors would disperse from the shooting star and descend upon the battle.
That's awesome.
And then the ship would disappear.
It's so fluffy. I love it.
It's pretty cool. So that's what they would do. They'd basically drop in where they're needed. As we say, they've got kind of mid-range weapons. They're not necessarily combat specialists, but they can drop in on troops and vehicles alike and sow devastation wherever they're needed. And then what's particularly interesting is using their wings, they can soar high up again, swoop down on another piece of the battlefield, and start to kind of engage different targets. Yeah. Kind of, they're kind of swooping in from on high.
Well, let's talk about them in game then, AJ. Okay, so how does this translate into their kind of their stats and their special rules?
So they're quite an interesting unit in that they're jump infantry. Yeah. Much in the same way as sort of Space Marine assault marines. Chaos Raptors and things like that there. However, they're not combat specialists, which is quite interesting for a jump pack or a jump infantry unit. I'll read out their stats. Fairly standard for Eldar. Weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 5, 1 attack, leadership 9, with a 4+ cover save. So not a great cover save for an aspect warrior. Most of them kind of have a 3+ save.
Yeah.
But what saves them is this idea that they're kind of swooping around. Mm-hmm. They're not looking to get
and
up.
What's their points cost then? Are they like 20 points? Or?
80 points will get you a squad of 5.
Yeah.
And then you can upgrade from there. Mm-hmm. But for what you get for those points is quite a lot. Even though they're toughness 3 1-win models with a 4+ save, they'll die fairly quickly.
Yeah.
If you let them kind of get engaged. Mm-hmm. However, they get a lot of equipment for their points.
Okay.
So they get a serious amount of equipment. So they're jump infantry. So they've got their Swooping Hawk wings.
Yep.
And then they've got haywire grenades. Or haywire grenades are they're only strength 2, but they've got the haywire special rule. So that's on a 1. It causes no effect. 2 to 5 is a automatic hull point, so it's a glance and hit. Mm-hmm. And then on a 6, it's a penetrating hit. So if you have a unit of 5 of those, that's a lot of churning through a lot of wounds. I was churning through a lot of hull points.
Yeah.
They have las blasters. This is their kind of main armament. Mm-hmm. So that's strength 3, so not a great strength. AP 5, it's fairly standard. But they're assault 3 and range 24. So they've got a lot of shots.
Haywire grenades, though, they can be used in 2 phases, though, can they not?
Yeah, they can be used in the shooting phase. Although with grenades, you can only use 1 grenade per unit in the shooting phase.
Yeah.
But you could lob a grenade out of vehicle, certainly. Mm-hmm. Now it's only strength 2, but it's got the haywire special rule.
Yeah.
So that's on a 1, causes no effect. 2 to 5 is a hull point, a glance and hit, and then on a 6 is the penetrating hit. So you've got a potential to do a bit of damage. Mm-hmm. It is only 8-inch range, but it's it could do something if you were kind of stretched.
Yeah.
You'd probably be better waiting for the assault when you get the same effect, but you get the whole squad kind of engaging the vehicle.
Okay. They are carrying plasma grenades as well.
Mm-hmm. Plasma grenades. They're just essentially a better frag grenade. Mm-hmm. So they're strength 4, AP 4.
Yeah.
Assault 1 blast. So at a range 8, that's pretty useful. And again, that might be a more useful to use if you're kind of if you're a bit closer than you really want to be with this unit.
Yeah.
What's great about this unit is whenever they deep strike in, they have something called a grenade pack. And a grenade pack is strength 4, AP 4, assault 1. It's barrage, it's blast, and it ignores cover. Okay, so what happens? They use this. Basically, they're allowed to use this whenever they deep strike in.
Yep.
You place them on the table, and then they get to drop this blast marker. Mm-hmm. So that's within 24 inches. So again, same range as your guns. It means you can stay a little bit back out of the way.
Yeah.
So it's quite a useful little tool. Ignores cover is the best special rule in the game at the moment.
Right, so talk me through this. So they can deep strike in.
Yeah. So they deep strike in.
Yeah.
And then they get this blast marker that they can place within 24 inches of the unit.
Uh-huh. So 24-inch range on it, and then they put it down, and it ignores cover.
And it ignores cover.
And
strength 4, AP 4.
Strength 4, AP 4. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have 6 or more in the squad, which is definitely a good reason just to buy another one.
Yeah.
That blast marker turns into a large blast marker.
For just one more guy?
For just one more guy.
Right, okay.
Now, the other great thing about this is when they deep strike in, they get to use their blast marker, and they also get to shoot in the shooting phase as well. So it doesn't use up their shooting. This is done in the movement phase before the shooting phase.
So this blast is done in the movement phase?
Because it's as
they get to deep strike
they enter in. Yeah.
They then get to do the blast during the movement phase. That's awesome. Then they get to do their shooting and then assaults. And then what do you do then?
Well, in their assault, they can't assault the turn they come in because they've just deep struck. However, Baharroth, he has a special rule where he...
Swooping Hawks, by the way, you'll find on page 35 of the Codex, and Baharroth, I think, is page 60 of the Codex, if you're following along.
Baharroth has a special rule that grants him the ability to kind of He doesn't scatter whenever he deep strikes in. But you need to have that special rule.
Yeah.
I think it's called Falcon Swiftness.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that. Otherwise, if he joins a unit that doesn't have that, then
he scatters
with them.
But if he joins a unit and he has that,
yeah,
then they don't scatter either. Then
they do scatter,
but he doesn't.
But he would.
He would.
Yeah, because
if he joins.
Yeah, because he has to.
Okay, so if he's deep striking on his own,
yeah,
he won't scatter.
Yeah.
But whenever he joins a unit, he loses that special rule.
If they don't have that special rule.
So in other words, you need to give it to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Right. I'm getting my head around this. Yeah, that's okay.
The other special thing about the Swooping Hawks, and Baharroth has this as well, is that they can basically jump out of battle again. So they deep strike in. Yeah. They drop the grenade.
Do their big blast, if there's 6 of them.
Yeah, they have their shooting phase.
Do their shooting, yeah.
The enemy has their turn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you might maybe take some casualties during the enemy turn. However, at that point, you can also, in your next phase, in your next turn, you can jump out of battle.
Can you run them in the assault phase?
I don't know if you can run them in the assault phase, but you could. I think they've got battle focus, which I think allows you to shoot and then run, or run and then shoot.
Yeah.
So battle focus is
run's not done in the assault phase. Run's done in the shooting phase, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm pretty sure they have battle focus.
Yeah, because what I was wondering is whether you can do like a jump, shoot, jump type thing, where you bring them in, they do their blast, they do their shooting, and then kind of move them into cover.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what battle focus would allow you to do.
Yeah. So I can do the deep strike, my big blast, lay down some firepower, and then move them into cover if there is cover available. Right. The next turn, hopefully they're in cover and they're not taking too much damage.
Yeah.
Comes back around to me, then what can I do?
Then you can carry out your turn, so they maybe get to shoot and all that kind of stuff. And then you jump them out of battle.
And that
you just take them off.
But they can do all their shooting and all first before.
Yeah, they can do all the shooting and all that kind of stuff first.
That's devastating. So in the next turn, they jump out of battle at the end of the assault phase, basically. At the end of your turn, you take them off the battlefield and they go into ongoing reserves. If they're locked in a combat, can they just?
No. If they're locked in.
Pants.
However, Baharroth on his own has a rule called hit and run. We'll just go actually and find that and read that out, because this is a pretty interesting rule. Yeah. And something I never actually thought about. Because hit and run basically allows you to jump out of combat if you're in it. And you can do that in your opponent's phase as well. I'll pull up the exact rule and we'll read out the exact wording on it. Hit and run. A unit that contains at least one model with this special rule that is locked in combat. So there's the crucial term, that contains at least one model.
So if he joins a unit, the unit gets this.
The unit gets this as well.
Okay, yeah.
That is locked in combat can choose to leave close combat at the end of any assault phase. If the unit wishes to do so, it must take an initiative test. If the test is failed, nothing happens, and the models remain locked in the fight. So initiative test is basically you have to roll below your initiative.
Yeah. These
guys are initiative 5. He probably has a higher initiative.
He's initiative 7.
He's initiative 7.
That means you always, unless you roll a 6, does a 6 count as an automatic fail, or?
That's a good question. We'll check up maybe in initiative tests as well, and just double check that. So if the test is failed, nothing happens. You just remain locked in combat. If the test is passed, choose a direction. Roll 3d6. As long as the distance rolled in inches is insufficient to allow the entire unit to move over 1 inch away from all of the enemy units, they are locked in combat with. The unit breaks away from combat and must immediately move a number of inches in the chosen direction equal to the 3d6 result, ignoring the models that were locked in combat. They were locked in combat with. No sweeping advance rolls are made. Enemy units that are no longer locked in combat immediately consolidate d6.
Okay.
So basically, you jump out of combat and you move whatever you rolled on the 3d6.
So I now have the potential.
So you now have the potential
to deep strike in, do my big blast,
Yeah.
do some shooting.
Well, the other thing is you avoid the enemy shooting phase as well. So you avoid getting shot in the enemy's turn. You jump out in your turn.
Yeah.
He has his turn, and then you come back in your next turn and do it all over again with grenades.
How could you jump out in your turn then?
Well,
I need to talk through the steps here.
Okay.
Oh, the complex these units now, right? So it's my turn.
Yeah.
Right? I've deep striked in. I've done my large blast 24 inches away. I've got 6 guys, so I can do this.
Yeah.
I've then laid down some firepower on you, okay? And then I've done my move, my run, and I went into cover.
Yeah.
Okay? It's then your turn, okay? And you have laid down some firepower, but I'm in cover, so it hasn't done an awful lot of damage. But you were close enough that you actually got into an assault, okay? I can then break out of that assault.
Not in that phase. So we would have our fight, and then I wonder. Let's just go back to hit and run. I'm not too sure if you can do it in the first round.
Yeah.
It used to be that you can only do it in subsequent rounds. We'll just go back and just.
But even then, even if I can't do it in that first round of the assault, you've done your assault. But in my next turn,
yeah.
If I haven't been assaulted, I can do some shooting and then pull off out of the board.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you can in my turn, because it says a unit that contains at least one model with this special rule that is locked in combat can choose to leave a close combat at the end of any assault phase. So as long as it's the end of the assault phase,
yeah,
you can disengage.
So I could either disengage in that turn, or it's probably just as well to stay there actually, because I've already taken the damage. Because if I disengage, then I could get shot from elsewhere, whereas if I stay there, you can't shoot into a combat, if I remember correctly.
No.
Okay, so I'd be safer actually if I've
Well, if it's going into your turn next, if I've assaulted you and it's my turn...
Oh, it's going into my turn
it's going
anyway.
into your turn, you'd be better jumping out.
Yeah, jump out, so then I can shoot you.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've jumped out, I can then shoot you, and then I can disappear off the board.
Yeah.
Can I do my large blast again if I come back in?
When you come back in, you just...
Oh, come on,
you
really?
Just go through all your... you just go through all the same information, same sort of steps again.
So it's the same, it's the same steps again?
Yeah, because you enter ongoing reserve and then you come in from reserve.
Okay. Right, how do I play this unit then? What's our tactical options for... strategically how we would play this unit?
So I mean, this unit is it's not a combat monster.
Yeah.
So it is best to sort of pick your targets, and luckily it's got decent enough range to allow you to do that. The grenade thing is really a huge bonus. If you have 6 or more of that large blast, it's definitely worth taking a squad of 6 over a squad of 5 to get that large blast. Basically, you would pick your target. You would kind of go, okay, that's the unit that I need to get rid of this turn.
So this is a suicide squad, is it, really?
To a degree, yeah. But if it lasts, it is a unit that can kind of keep coming back and keep giving you, options within a game. It's great. Again, much like the race that we looked at last time, it gives you that flexibility to kind of really exploit the battlefield. Another prime unit for Maelstrom.
Yeah.
Games.
Oh, because you have options of where they can go.
Yeah. So many options. So if you consider a Maelstrom game where you've got an objective in the far corner, and this turn you have to claim that objective, and then next turn you draw a card and you have to claim the one on the other side of the enemy's deployment zone. It's just a matter of picking that unit up, waiting that turn, and dropping it in over the other side. Yeah. So it's a great unit for kind of getting to where you need it to be at any time on the battlefield. The key is getting your head around the fact that they're not a close combat unit. Yeah. So so whereas the obvious thing for the likes of the assault squads and stuff like that is you're trying to deep strike them in so they can get into a combat. Yeah. These guys here, you want to be paying more attention to the likes of terrain and stuff like that, because you want to deep strike them in, lay down that blast, get some firepower in, and then get them into hiding. Yeah. That generally seems to be the thing. Keep them safe enough to deep strike them out again. Yeah. To bring them back in and rinse and repeat. That's essentially it.
And because it's shooting, that's effective against pretty much anything, really. You know, you could use these guys to take out a large vehicle if you wanted to, or to go up against one of your opponent's, you know, a command squad or a big beastie. Or there's a lot of flexibility in there, provided you can keep them safe.
And if you had to leave them on the board rather than taking them away, if you thought, right, that land raider has to die next turn, or that, you know, whatever kind of vehicle it is that you need to get rid of, if you leave them on the battlefield, as you say, in cover or out of line of sight, they've got enough movement because of their wings to kind of get into combat with that vehicle and get rid of it, if they so need to. You know?
Now, there's one other thing I want to check. When you're bringing them out, is that them going into reserve? Do I have to roll to see if I can get them back in again?
No, ongoing reserves automatically come in the next turn.
Yeah.
So ongoing reserves is something that's kind of become more prevalent in 40k with flyers, because flyers kind of fly off the board edge and things like that there. So it is something you're seeing more regularly, and that basically just means the next turn they automatically come in, because
but
they've
I have to roll for them the first time they come in.
You have to roll from the first time.
Right. So I want to get a good roll or find some other.
There is in the Eldar Codex, you've got the likes of the Autarchs. That's one of the HQ choices, and he gives you pluses and minuses depending on what you want to the roll for coming in. So he's pretty good.
Okay. Weaknesses.
They're very fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they start to take fire, you're going to start to take wounds, and you're going to sort of suffer for it.
And if you've only got a 6-man squad, you only have to lose one, and you lose that large blast.
You still got the small blast, but you lose that kind of extra radius on the.
So, fantastically interesting unit, but you've got to be very aware of your game plan for these guys. Yeah.
The other limitations is the Eldar Codex being what it is. It's a very good codex, very well written codex. In terms of there's very few units that don't have a role on the battlefield, or a good strong role, or multi roles even.
Yeah.
Most of the units are actually good at several things, and that sort of fits the Eldar fluff. You know, they should be quite versatile units because there's so few of them. However, probably the biggest limitation to this unit is it's very easy to look past a unit like this and see the other shiny, super killy units. Whereas this kind of unit is much better at, you know, kind of fulfilling those little pinpoint objectives that sometimes crop up in the likes of Maelstrom games, but also in standard missions.
I can certainly see its use in Maelstrom. So, final word then, AJ. Go with a unit of 6 of these guys and stick Baharroth in with them?
Actually, I would probably keep them cheap, and if I was going to take Baharroth, I'd take him on his own.
Yeah.
And fly him around, because it gives you his grenade pack, which means you've got a small blast from him and a large blast from the other unit. And he's probably got a little bit of a different role as well.
Yeah.
He's also quite expensive. He's got lots of special rules. He brings a lot of blind into play. Blind as a special rule kind of basically means that your enemy takes a test. I think it's again it's on its initiative.
So the only time we would join that unit is if you wanted to try and get that hit and run.
If you wanted to hit and run, yeah.
But if you manage to work your deployment each time that you're not going to need it, then
if you're going to take Baharroth with them, you're probably best taking a bigger squad, because it's quite it almost becomes a sort of a big point sink in itself. You know, you're talking he's 170, you're maybe talking another 150 for a decent sized squad of Swooping Hawks. It's 310 points. That's a lot of points to kind of invest in one squad. Now it is a squad that's going to land exactly where you want it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's going to throw out a decent amount of firepower.
You know, I'm with you on this. I'm tempted. I would go with them before I'd go with Baharroth. Definitely. And I probably wouldn't even bother with, well, maybe with Baharroth. If you can be careful with them and keep them out of combat, and careful with your strategy for them, then they should be fine on their own.
Yeah. Now, Units within 6 of Baharroth when he enters the board. This adds a little bit of
extra dimension.
Yeah. Basically, you have to take a blind test. So any unit hit by one or more models or weapons with this special rule must take an initiative test at the end of the current phase. If the test is passed, all is well. If the initiative test is failed, all models in the unit are reduced to weapon skill and ballistic skill 1 until the end of their next turn.
Oh, hey.
Should the attacking unit hit themselves, we assume they're prepared and they automatically passed. Any model that does not have an initiative characteristic are unaffected. So vehicles are unaffected, things like that. So, but that does basically mean that units that are hit with this blind and fail their check are essentially snap firing if they shoot. So if you drop him in the back line of maybe a gun line or something like that then all of those kind of troopers are firing with their weapons
really
potentially on ballistic skill 1.
Well, that just made his points seem a lot more value for money, didn't it, if you get that right?
Yeah. But again, it's quite situational, and you're relying on your enemy having a low initiative.
Yeah.
Remember, our initiative tests are below their initiative value.
Yeah.
So the likes of, if you're going up against the likes of orcs,
If they have a few Luda squads out there which generally cause havoc, that's a good place to plonk them and hopefully. What about guardsmen?
Yeah, it's about a 50-50 chance. You know, initiative 3. It's about a 50-50 chance. So yeah. Marines less likely. Still potential there. Initiative 4 most Marines.
Yeah.
But certainly against other Eldar or things like that there.
Forget about it.
Yeah. I think are Tau initiative 2 or are they initiative 3? So Tau probably in around that middle ground as well. So they would probably be quite a good target too.
Okie dokie.
And Necrons. Most Necrons are initiative 2.
Well, there you have it. AJ, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, Swooping Hawks, what's your thoughts? Have you any strategies? How have you used them in battle? I want to know. I think they've been great. We'll continue with our little unit spotlights. So what that means is we will see you next week. See you then. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Right, so we have a few links up to help you out. Check out the playlist. We also have a subscribe option, and remember, if you subscribe, to click the bell to ding our dong. Finally, if you're into binge watching and you want a whole lot more 40k Charted, come on over to beastsofwar.com, join Backstage, and you get early access to all of the seasons.